Oh, come on. Come on, you piece of junk. Come on, start, not again. Oh, let's see if the radio still works. Yeah, well, yeah, there's, oh, that show Motor Mouse is on.
And good morning and welcome to your Motor Mouth Show, your SLO County Car Talk show featuring Mr. Stop and Mr. Go. This is Jeff Spevack, Continental Motor Works, known as Mr. Go till 9 a.m. this morning. Sitting next to me, Mr. Stop, just raring to talk about cars. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm fine. So we got to talk about cars.
Cars, that's what we do.
We got to talk about all kinds of different stuff. Anyway, why not start off by saying that education is important, and the people that we have to work on vehicles, there are many different avenues of things to do when it comes to working on vehicles or being in the automobile industry. And Cuesta College and Allen Hancock College has programs in vocational education. And if you get a vocational education in automotive, and you work at a few places, you find that you will probably get yourself a toolbox with your own tools. And with a toolbox and some knowledge, you can travel any place in the United States and get a job. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. I mean, mechanics are needed. And even though you might not be a mechanic, for example, women, we would like to see women in this field. As a service writer, they are excellent. As other things in the parts department, for example, they are excellent.
We see a lot of women in parts.
Yeah.
We don't see too many women in service. We would like to see more.
Yeah.
And of course, in, car sales and dealerships, there's more women in that department,
yes.
So, absolutely. I mean, I think that we have opportunities here locally with Cuesta College and Allen Hancock, and I think a lot of areas don't. I think we're very fortunate.
We are very fortunate in having this.
And good high schools also. So it's something to definitely take advantage of, especially, not everybody is meant to go into a 4-year college, which is, maybe more traditional liberal arts or things like that, or sciences. And vocational is, look, there's a lot of people there's a lot of jobs, and there's a lot of people that are really more suitable to going into that field, and I think more people should take advantage of it.
Not only that, but if they take the community college first, they got 2 years of a 4-year college. So if they go the 2 first years at the community college, and then they can transfer into higher education after that, they have the basis. Mm-hmm. They have already covered the basis, and they're more mature to go on. Yeah. And the thing is that it is needed. People in the vocational industry is needed. You see what they are complaining about now in industry. They want people that knows how to do certain things. There's a lot of people that knows how to write a letter, but mm-hmm. not enough people that know how to take and make something on a lathe or some other piece of equipment. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, Cuesta College and Allen Hancock College.
Just the opposite. I graduated from a 4-year college in Ohio. I moved to California. Yeah. And then I went to Cuesta.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to learn something different. I wanted to learn automotive. So, and so that, people do that too.
And, the one thing about Cuesta College is that if you're out of high school and you live in San Luis Obispo County, the first year, tuition free. I mean, think about it. I mean, you live at home and you have
quite a benefit. Wow.
Absolutely.
Pretty amazing.
Fantastic.
All right. Hey, those of you that are Cuesta College attendees or graduates or Allen Hancock, call us and tell us about your experience. Phone lines are open at 543-8830. That's 543-8830. We are the Motor Mouth Show. We're a live call-in car talk show. We'd like to invite you to call us earlier in the show than later. We tend to not be able to talk to you enough late in the show because we run out of time. So if you're the first caller, you win a premium. So if you have a car question or a car story, you have something going on with your car, like a warning light or a funny noise. We're going to talk a little bit about noises today. If you're having a relationship issue that relates to your car, we'll put you on the Motor Mouth couch. So call us, 543-8830. Once again, the first caller will win a premium at Continental Motor Works. So we'd love to hear from you.
Are you talking about a relationship to your car or a relationship within the family about the car?
We have all of those.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because, I mean...
definitely have a relationship with your car.
Well, if the car talks back at you...
Love-hate relationship with your car.
Yeah. So if the car talks back at you when you're talking to the car, then you need to talk about that.
That's right. That's right. So, I was going to talk a little bit about noises today. One of the most common things that we deal with at the shop is noises. And people sometimes have a hard time describing the noises.
Oh, yes.
Because it doesn't always happen right when they bring it in. It's frustrating. People say, I had a customer come in and she had a squealing around turns.
Yeah.
We went out for a test drive. Didn't do it. She goes, it just did it on the way into the shop. How could it not do it? So we go out for a test drive. We went out for 2 test drives. It still didn't do it. We did find the problem, and it was just the backing plate was bent a little bit.
Yes, that happens quite often.
That's what was happening. It was flexing a little bit on the turns. But we do deal a lot with noises, and it can be tricky. A lot of times, Matt and I have been working on cars for so long. Like I hear a car go by and it's got squealing belts.
Oh yeah.
Well, you know what it is.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's that noise. It's that squeak. You can hear it, especially when they're turning. And so that's usually belts. Now that could be loose belts, or it could be a low fluid in your power steering system, or it could be something else in the belt system. So belts have gotten complicated. It used to be that they had these, what's called V-belts.
Yes.
Which were a little simpler. Now we have what's called a serpentine belt, which is a big ribbed belt that goes around in about 3 different figure 8 patterns.
Yeah, it's the same belt will drive the air conditioner, the power steering, the generator or the alternator, and the power steering.
And then there's a couple of idlers. There's usually a tensioner and an idler. So there's usually 1, 2, 3, 4. There might be 6 pulleys that this belt is winding around in a kind of a interesting pattern. And so sometimes it's difficult to find out why that belt's making noise. Sometimes it's not the belt. Sometimes it's like we had one. So we use a stethoscope.
Yeah.
We have a stethoscope that we put on, and if you have a little bit of a educated ear or an experienced ear that then you can figure out, okay, like we had one that was coming from the idler bearing yesterday that we fixed, and but sometimes that noise travels through things, and sometimes it's coming from lower in the engine, and it sounds like it's coming from higher in the engine, so it can be a little tricky. Of course, probably the most common noise that we get is brake noise. Or at least used to be the most common noise.
I think that they are getting better with the brake noise. We had to begin with disc brakes. We had a lot of noises.
Yeah, all the time.
Terrible.
Even when you replace them.
Yes, yeah, I know. So we have come a long way.
Yeah, so now there's what's called squealers on brakes. So and it's really a brake wear indicator. And so when your brakes get down to about 2 millimeters remaining, you start hearing your squealing, not when you're braking, but when you're just rolling slowly. And it's just like a constant...
Yeah, very, very high.
Yeah, and that means that your need brakes.
Yeah.
And that's an indicator that's designed into that brake pad that starts making noise against the rotor right at about 2 millimeters. And so it's a good thing because it keeps you from getting metal on metal and saves your rotors.
But the thing is about that, that if you listen to this for about 4 or 5 days and then it quits, it is not that the brakes are fix themselves. It's because that little squealer has broken off.
Worn through.
Yeah, it's broken off, and the vibration will break it off.
Yeah. So then people think, "Oh, I'm okay."
Yeah, right.
And then later they start hearing the the grinding, which is the rotor. So, and that's the bad noise. So this high-pitched squeal is actually a less expensive noise than the grinding.
Right.
Because that means that your rotor is in there. So those are all brake-related noises. Yeah. And then we talked about belts. Steering is also a very common noise when that power steering fluid starts leaking from a pump or a rack or a hose, and you start hearing the
more of a growl or
a groan or a whine.
That's right.
When you're steering. Hey, we've got our first caller of the day. By the way, we invite you to call us. We'd love not to get to our topic today and be talking to you instead. So call us at 543-8830. Let's talk to Dave from Los Osos. Hi, Dave. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for another show.
Thanks for calling. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I have a question surrounding getting a car smogged. I got, I guess, a few different scenarios, and then any comments you have. So, you under one scenario, you have a car that you own, you take it in, it doesn't get small, it won't pass. So, what do you do then? I guess you take certain steps. And then scenario number 2, you buy a car and it doesn't pass smog. You buy a used car from a private party, doesn't pass smog, then what are those steps? And then if you bring a car in from out of state and it doesn't pass smog, so if you could just talk about that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So number 1, bringing in a car and it not passing. So there's so many different reasons that a car doesn't pass. But probably one of the more common reasons that cars don't pass are just because it had a dead battery or because it had a check engine light on and somebody fixed it. So one of the main reasons that people don't pass smog initially when they come into the shop is they weren't honest with us. So I ask them right away and I say, hey, did you just have a dead battery or did you have a check engine light on previously? And they say, no, everything's fine. But then the machine will know. The smog machine will pick up through what we call the monitors, the different smog systems on your car. They have to have been self-checked and be complete. And so one of the main reasons that a car doesn't pass is because of that. So if your car just had it, let's say it was a car that sat for a long time and you jumped it and then you're bringing it in for smog, well, you have to go drive it first for about 50 miles before you go in for a smog check, and that'll save you from having a failed smog check.
Okay.
And if you had a check engine light on, then tell the shop, say, look, I just fixed that check engine light. I did this, and now it's off. So then once again, if you just fixed a car that had a check engine light on, you probably have to drive it for 50 miles before it will be smoggable. And that's because the OBD2 system, or the check engine light system, will tell, the computer will read that it hasn't completed its monitors. It hasn't self-checked all its systems. So that's one. Another, let's say, the less expensive reasons that a car fails smog is like just there might be a breather hose that's broken, or there might be an intake hose that's broken, or there might be something in the smog system that's disconnected, or the EGR valve is plugged, or things like that. And these are fairly simple things. Now, if the emissions, we don't see that many failed smog checks anymore for the old reasons. Like in the old days, They used to fail for high emissions. Smog systems are so good now, and the OBD2 system is so good now, we don't see failed smog for high emissions very often. It's mostly because of the things I just said. More of now, if you have an older car, let's say it's an 80s vehicle, and it's not running good, or it hasn't been maintained, or it's got the original cat converter on it, then yes, that's possible. So then your options then are, how much is it going to be to fix that car, and is it worth it? So let's say you have a car that maybe is only worth $2,000. Let's say it's a 30-year-old car. And let's say it needs a catalytic converter that's going to cost you $800. So then you have a decision to make. And probably if you still like the car, you might do it. But or you might apply for a cost limit with the state of California. So what you can do is you can say, okay, you have to be able to, I think it's a $600 cost limit towards smog that they can make you spend. And then at that point, they will give you a certificate. The problem with that is they make you retest it in 1 year.
Yeah.
Instead of 2 years. So it's not such a great deal.
I see.
Do you have any questions about any of the things I just said, Dave?
Well, let me fill in a little bit more here.
Sure.
Okay.
Number one, if you're going to buy a car, the seller of the vehicle is the one that's responsible for smog in the car. So you don't buy a used car without having a smog certificate to go with it. If it comes in from out of state, you got to be very careful because they don't have the same laws there as they have in California. If you're in doubt about this, there's a station at Cuesta College at the automotive department where they have a what they call that, a judge,
referee.
A referee, yeah. And you can go and talk to that referee, and he can tell you everything about what is allowed and how long your car can be run on what you have and whatever. So
typically, cars coming in from out of state it's a pretty much of a no-brainer, unless if it's an old car that's been tampered with. Now, coming in from out of the country is a different story.
Yeah.
But coming in from out of state is you just go ahead and test it. You don't really need to retrofit it with anything. Now, if you go back 30 years and it didn't have a cat converter on it or something like that, or if it's been tampered with, then you got a problem. But if it has all the original equipment that was on it in the first place, bringing in from out of state is easy.
So if it's a car that's, let's say, 10 or 15 years old, out of state,
it's not going to be a problem.
Should most likely pass California.
You just run a test. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing, you want to, if it's an out-of-state car, and let's say it is 20 years old, and let's say it's from snow country.
Oh, well, watch out.
You want to look at that car safety-wise. And make sure that it doesn't have, California, we really take it for granted that cars can last 30 years.
Yes.
Without being problems. But if your car was from
Illinois
or somewhere that's the snow belt,
Northeast,
it may not be safe anymore. So have that car safety checked. Have a vehicle pre-purchase inspection done before you buy a car like that. Sometimes a deal is too good to be true. In other states, they have, along with their smog program, every 2 years, they have a safety program.
Yes.
California doesn't have that, which is a problem because you have cars running around that have metal-on-metal brakes and ball joints that are just about ready to break and rust on the suspension, etc., that can be hazardous not just to the driver but to everybody else on the road. So, Dave, are we hitting on some of your answers?
No, those are great. You've answered all my questions. So let's say you buy a car in state and it passes smog. The seller provides a smog certificate, and then the next year it's having trouble passing smog. You do have the option of a sort of a maximum out of pocket that they'll let you.
So let's talk about that a little bit. If you buy a car from a private party, and if you think that car's been tampered with at all, if you think this guy's been working on his own car and you have any doubts, then what's best is for you to have the car smogged before you buy it.
Yeah.
You do it yourself. In other words, if he did it himself, if he's selling the car and it's already got a smog certificate, but if they've tampered with it, then it's in 2 years later, you're going to find out the bad news.
Yeah.
You're going to go into a smog check and they're going to say, oh no, this car has a computer chip in it. It's got a different computer in it. You're going to have to, they've taken the air cleaner off and this intake system is not smog legal, or they've tampered with the cat converter. They've taken the guts out of it, et cetera, et cetera. And now you might be stuck with a $2,000 smog repair that if you had done it in the first place yourself, instead of him taking it to somebody that didn't do it honestly or legally, it can get a little complicated. The seller is responsible for the car being smog legal, but it's probably better for the buyer to do the smog before they buy the car, but for the buyer to be the one that does the smog.
Well, wouldn't a smog check do that?
Yeah, smog check should do that, but I'm just saying if the seller had it done illegally.
But I mean, instead of going through, smog check costs less money than smog, doesn't it?
Same thing.
Oh, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I'm just calling it a smog.
Okay, fine.
Smog check, smog test, smog.
All right, fine, all right.
It's all the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But it can get a little complicated. And so one of the other thing that we see failures for is a lot of people are real hot on putting these cold intake air cleaners on. And so it's like a high flow intake system. You take off the traditional air cleaner. Well, if you do that on your own car, don't throw that out because you want to put that in a box and save it. But make sure that the system that you're buying
is original,
is California smog legal. It has to be approved by the Air Resources Board and it has to have a number on it.
Okay.
Right on it, so that when we do a smog check, we see that number. Because if we don't, then it fails for that.
Okay. And where would that number be?
It should be stamped right on it. It should be in full view. There should be a label on it.
Okay. On the air cleaner, or
or the intake. If they've put on an aftermarket, what's it called? A K&B?
Yeah. Well, I talk to my students about that, and I recommend that they don't do that because in order to filter the air that goes into the system, they put oil on the intake filter, and then they suck that oil in through the intake together with the air, and that oil then will coat some of the sensors that's in the intake, and then the engine can't
problems. The mass airflow sensor fails the smog check. You know, young people buy a car and they want to do something.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know, so in the old days, you used to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
You'd put a bigger exhaust system on it. You'd put a different carburetor on it, or you'd put a different throttle body on it, and you'd put on all these modifications on it. And now you can't.
I remember the old. I used to do that. I had my first car was '65 Ford Galaxy, and I could do anything with that car. Yeah. I could do.
You still can now because a 73 and earlier car doesn't need to be smog. But so now all you can do is you can put a bigger muffler on it, and you can put this air intake system on it.
But you might screw up the computer.
Yeah, but that's what people do, and they do it because they want to mess with their car somehow, or they want more performance, or they want to feel like they've done something to it, you know. Yeah. And so, if you want to do that, buy a 73 or earlier car.
Yeah, I won't go that far back.
Anyway, that was a very interesting question you had.
That was very helpful. Thank you. I have one more question. If you've got callers waiting, I can take it off the air later. But at the start of your show, I didn't hear
Dave,
it this morning.
hang on for just a sec.
Okay.
Do you have a few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to our first break.
Okay.
We're going to keep you on the line.
All right.
And then we're going to come back, and then we can talk without being in a hurry.
All right.
So we're the Motor Mouth Show. We're Matt and Jeff. We are here till 9 a.m. to talk with you. The way that works is you call us at 543-8830. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back.
And we got a classic commercial here. Ethel Merman for Texaco.
This is
Texaco presents Miss Ethel Merman.
Trust is a must at Texaco. Trust is a must, we know.
You want to be able to always rely
On the gasoline, motor oil, and products you buy. In everything that we do at Texaco, we're working to keep your trust. Wherever you go at Texaco, trust is a must. So for products you can trust, come on everybody, let's hear it. You can trust your car to the man who wears the star, the big bright Texaco star.
Hi, this is Jeff Spevack, Motormouth co-host and owner of Continental Motor Works. What can you expect here at Continental? We will treat you and your car with care and respect and gratitude. We will bend over backwards to earn your trust. You will fully understand what we are doing on your car and know how much it will cost before we do the work. you will always get value. A fair exchange. You work hard for your money. We believe we should work smarter and harder for what you pay us for. Now in our 36th year, we fix it all. Cars, trucks, SUVs, and hybrids.
Call Jeff at Continental Motor Works at 541-1464. Mention this ad and receive 10% off labor.
Here's some inside information to get your gas mileage back. Inside your engine, carbon builds up, clogging the injectors and combustion area. If you want your fuel system cleaned in just one tank of fuel, use what the inside car guys use most. It's called BG44K. In fact, service managers use it almost 3-to-1 over any other fuel system cleaner. To find a shop with BG products, go to bgfindashop.com. That's bgfindashop.com.
BG.
When it's time to service your car,
or a warning light is starting to glow,
go see the pros at Absolute Auto.
At the corner of Sacramento and Capitolio.
Having a problem with the brakes or the steering down below?
Or an alignment to adjust the tow?
Computer systems, they do know.
Call 543-8737 to reach Absolute Auto.
Hey, we're back. We're the Motor Mouse. We're Matt and Jeff. We're here till 9 a.m. We want to talk to you, so call us. 543-8830. Call us about your car. That's what makes this show more interesting. And luckily, we still have Dave on the line asking some great questions. Hey, Dave, you still with us?
Yes,
Excellent. So we've been talking about smog. What are we going to now?
Well, the question I had, I didn't catch the very start of your show this morning. I like and you played just part of it there coming back in after the break, which those old commercials are great, by the way.
Thanks.
But you have the guy at the start of the show trying to start the car and then sort of mumbling. And is that locally produced, or is that? I love that piece.
That was back when KVEC studios were on Choro Street, where we first started doing the show, right. And that I don't remember his name.
It was an old. It's before my time. Yeah, but I do know the announcer is a guy named Freddie B.
Yeah.
And he worked for KVEC in KSLY.
Yes, that was done in-house, KVEC, yeah, for sure.
That's great.
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, that was really helpful on the smog. I mean, I'm looking for a vehicle, and I usually try to find an older person or an adult that's a single owner, but if I happen to see, and I stay away from cars that generally owned by younger people are going to tinker with them, but if I have any suspicions on the smog, I should just take it down and have it done myself, and maybe check the air filter and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So yeah, your formula is good. Finding a one owner is great because it takes all the mystery out of buying a used car, because as long as they have good service records, which you want, then you can see the whole history of the car. You know everything. That's worth a lot. That's worth more money. It's worth it to spend more money for a car like that, one owner. Have a vehicle pre-purchase inspection done by Continental Motor Works, Absolute Auto, wherever you want to go, and then have the smog done at the same time, and then you buy the car.
Yeah.
And only one more thing. If you buy a car coming from out of state, be careful if it comes from a state that has had a lot of rain and flood. A lot of these cars are being flooded, and insurance companies will buy them, and then they will restore them, and then they get shipped out of that state, and they might end up in California.
We had a Prius. We had somebody bring in for a vehicle pre-purchase inspection, and this vehicle looked great. I mean, on the outside. And then we started looking at it, and we found like all these leaves under the carpet. Yeah. This thing had been in a flood.
Okay.
And it had wiring damage. It had a computer under the seat that had been corroded. And you would have never known. I would have never known it just driving the car and looking at it. We had to do a little digging.
Yep.
Okay.
Good advice. Thanks much, guys.
Thank you, Dave, very much. By the way, stop by the shop. You want a premium for being the first caller. We appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, let's go to Patricia in Morro Bay. Hi, Patricia. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We are excellent. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
What would you like to talk about?
But my car is not so well, apparently. My check lights are on, indicating that there's a battery problem.
Okay.
I took it in for just a quick look, and the alternator is fine. The battery is fine. The lights are still coming on.
Tell me the year and model of your car, please.
A 2003 Toyota.
We lost her.
Yeah, I think she's getting information from someone.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Hello, Patricia.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now, yeah.
Stay up right up on the phone, please, Patricia.
Okay. It is a 2003 Toyota Camry.
So when you say the lights are on, are you talking about the battery light, the one that's the signal of the battery?
Yes.
And a bunch of other lights are on also?
Yes.
So I would, the very first thing, and you took it into like an automotive repair shop?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and they said that it was charging okay?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
He put the little machine on it and ran it and said, I can't find a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I am due for, an oil change, but I checked the oil before I took it in, and the oil's fine.
But it is the battery light that's on and not the check engine light. I guess I want to make sure of that.
Oh, well, it is the battery light.
It's the battery light, okay. I would say like 90% that you need an alternator. So here's the things that we check. And maybe you want to just have a second opinion and have somebody look, unless if this is the guy that you've been going to for a long time. So number one, you make sure that the battery cable ends on the battery are tight and there's no corrosion in those cables.
Okay.
Number two, go to the alternator, make sure the alternator belt is tight, and make sure that the connectors that are on the back of the alternator, once again, are in good shape and there hasn't been some sort of wiring burn. So then you get a flashlight and you follow, or this is what we do, we follow the wiring from the alternator through the loom to the battery. And then if those things look okay, there still has to be a reason that those warning lights are on. So somebody needs to dig a little deeper. If the alternator is working properly, there might be a fusible link that might be related to the charging system, but that in that case, it wouldn't be charging. There might be a wiring problem or a bad ground somewhere. But somebody might have to do a little more digging. But there's a problem. All those lights should not be on.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. All right.
Now you live in Morro Bay, right?
Yes.
And the car's parked outside?
No, in a garage.
In a garage, okay. Well, they are more acceptable to corrosion in Morro Bay. And if there is a problem with the electrical system, it's the ground.
And so more than likely, though, I can tell you that 90% chance that you need an alternator, even if it tests good right now.
Really? Okay.
Has the alternator ever been replaced?
No.
Okay.
Well, how many miles on the car?
It's 14 years old. So
yeah, well, how many miles?
Only about 100,000.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
So I would have somebody dig a little deeper, and then if everything tests okay, I would put an alternator on it.
Okay.
Because that's probably what's going to
do that.
That's probably what's going to fix it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right, Patricia. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So the alternator does have diodes in it, and even if it's charging okay, one of those diodes may be going bad, and it may be kicking those lights on. But somebody needs to look at everything else too.
Yes,
so just like you
I
said,
agree with you.
And corrosion on wiring, corrosion in battery cables. Sometimes taking the cables off of the battery, wire brushing the inside of those terminals, putting it back together. I mean, a lot of automotive repair goes back to the basics.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. That contact of the battery is the most critical thing there is.
Basics.
But, to living on the coast, you do have different problems than if living inland.
It's true.
Yeah.
Especially if the car's been outside. But, if that car's been in Morro Bay for a long time, there's a lot of corrosion, a lot of things that affect the car.
Can I give a shout out?
Absolutely.
Okay, Supreme Automotive in Grover.
Mm-hmm.
Because I took I did the preventative thing. I did the transmission flush last Wednesday. I getting on the freeway the other day and it was a little sluggish, and I'm thinking, it's been a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should get a transmission flush. And I just driving out of their parking lot was a better.
Mm-hmm.
You could feel it. You could feel it.
Yeah,
and so I got the transmission flush. I got the oil change, and I paid for that. I thought I was going to have to get the brakes done, and just because it's a little squeaky, you know, they said, no, just some dirt up in there. Just cleaned it out. It was fine. He said, you got another 2 or 3 oil changes
in
it. That's the way they put it to me.
Yeah.
And because they were at 0.4 or 0.5 or something like that, and they need to be down to 0.2, basically. So I have a lot of brake pad left. It was just, they were just noisy. So they treated me. I thought they treated
very
me really
honest.
Good. Yeah.
Took care of what needed to be taken care of, and not anything more.
I heard a lot of good from those people. Yes.
Yeah.
They've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
They do a great job. Love to hear a pat on the back. Those of you out there that have had positive experiences with enough to call and rave about them, we love that. That's fabulous. Any automotive related business. Supreme Automotive in Grover Beach.
Yeah.
And Patricia called about her Camry alternator battery issue. I was going to talk a little bit about batteries today because, that's just one of the main things of a car. So, we usually recommend replacing the battery after 5 years. And that's a pretty good practice. That's usually about how long they last. Every once in a while, you see one that lasts 8 years, 9 years, 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty amazing. But people ask me, hey, why did my battery fail? And we've talked about this before on the show, but a lot of people don't drive very much in this area.
Right.
And if your car sits for days at a time, regularly over, let's say, a 3-year period, your battery may only last for 3 years.
Yeah.
Especially if it's your second car and it sits for, let's say, weeks at a time.
Well, my cars do that.
Yeah. So the batteries, because the battery lasts longer when it stays at its full state of charge. And so if it's continually going down and you're having to bring it back up, and not only taxes the battery, it taxes the alternator also. So if this is your third car maybe, and it sits for, let's say, months at a time, it's good to have what's called a battery minder on it. And that is that little trickle charger that automatically goes on and off once the battery reaches its state of charge. We do recommend that. But not the old school trickle chargers you just turn on and you can overcharge the battery. We don't like that. The new ones are called battery minders. And they work really well. So sir, going in for a regular service on your car where somebody's already looking at your battery, testing your battery, looking at the cables like we talked about, making sure you don't have corrosion, and testing that battery every, 6 months is a really good idea. Sometimes people ask me, hey, I've only put 2,000 miles on my car in the last 6 months. Why do I need to service it? Well, your car has tires. It has a battery, it has lights, it has brakes, it has belts, it has hoses, it has all the things that are going to keep you safe by having somebody look at that stuff. If you really want your car to have, really in really excellent condition, we really recommend every 6 months on servicing your car. That takes care of all, and that's not just changing the oil. That's a bumper to bumper look at.
But that's something that you buy a car and it says, well, there's no service on this car. You can drive it and you don't have to worry about it. But like we were talking about on changing oil and automatic transmission, I did that here about a month ago, and I could tell the difference that I drove it out of the garage. I mean, it's amazing how big a difference it is in the way that the transmission shifts from one gear to another. How much more solid it feels.
Yeah, I think you just kind of get used to the way things are, so you kind of get, okay, this is the way the car runs. And then I went to get in on the freeway the other day, and it was just a little sluggish about, I kind of had to get on it a little bit to get up to the speed, and just a little sluggish about going in that last gear. And I'm thinking, maybe it's time. So, and it had been a while, so I went ahead and had it done, and just driving out of their parking lot was just amazing. The difference.
One of the best
service the cars. It all brings it back down to, I remember when I started in business in the 60s, people would not keep the car over 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The car was 3 years old, forget it. I can remember customers coming into the shop and I said, well, you need some front-end work here, and it's probably going to cost you $75 to have this repaired. Of course, that's when we only charged about $10 an hour.
Right, there was different days,
right.
And cars were a lot less expensive.
Yeah, but, they say, well, $75? No, I'll trade it in. I'll get a new car.
Right.
But you got to think about that. It's relative, too, because minimum wage was different.
Yeah.
So everything goes up. So
and cars didn't last as long. So that was when cars lasted maybe 100,000 miles if you were lucky.
If you're lucky.
And now you can see, hey, I can get 200,000 miles out of this car. I can save myself a lot of money. And look, the price of cars has gone way up now. People don't blink at spending $50,000 on a car.
Yeah, my car has got quite a few on it, but about 170. But it should go a lot longer. And
because you're keeping it up.
Because I'm keeping it up. And I have family members got a Mercedes that's got 370,000 miles on it.
It's great.
And it runs like it's brand new.
Yep.
And so it's just
only maintenance. All maintenance.
Yeah, I think we're going to go to our second break of the day. We're the Motor Mouth Show, Matt and Jeff. Phone lines are open at 543-8830. We'd love to hear from you. This show's always more interesting when you call us. So please give your Motor Mouths a call, 543-8830. We'll be back.
And I got to laugh about this one a little bit. It's got a classic commercial. Service stations are not really known for their restrooms being so clean sometimes. So they've got a Texaco commercial here saying about the fact that they have such clean restrooms at Texaco.
Wherever you travel in America, it's reassuring to know there are thousands of Texaco service stations throughout all 50 states with Texaco products you can trust and Texaco conveniences for people on the road. I mean the restrooms. Restrooms that Texaco is doing its best to make sure are clean and neat. Something a lady really appreciates.
When it's time to service your car,
or a warning light is starting to glow,
go see the pros at Absolute Auto.
At the corner of Sacramento and Capitolio.
Having a problem with the brakes or the steering down below?
Or an alignment to adjust the tow?
Computer systems, they do know.
Call 543-8737 to reach Absolute Auto.
Your car's fuel economy was never better than when it was new. But time and miles have robbed your car of its MPG and performance. Service managers recommend BG44K to remove carbon and restore mileage in just one tank of fuel. In fact, dealerships nationwide use BG44K almost 3-to-1 over any other product. To find a shop at BG Products, go to bgfindashop.com.
BG. Can you imagine selling your car next week and saying to the buyer, hey, don't worry, because the engine is covered against failure for life. It's called the Lifetime Protection Plan for the Engine from BG Products. Now imagine having this huge benefit free with your next oil service when you remember these two letters, BG. BGMOA is available at over 20,000 shops nationwide. Find yours at bgfindashop.com. That's bgfindashop.com. BG.
Hi, this is Jeff Spevack, Motormouth co-host and owner of Continental Motor Works. What can you expect here at Continental? We will treat you and your car with care and respect and gratitude. We will bend over backwards to earn your trust. You will fully understand what we are doing on your car and know how much it will cost before we do the work. You will always get value, a fair exchange. You work hard for your money. We believe we should work smarter and harder for what you pay us for. Now in our 36th year, we fix it all. Cars, trucks, SUVs, and hybrids.
Call Jeff at Continental Motor Works at 541-1464. Mention this ad and receive 10% off labor.
Hey, we're back. We're the Motor Mouse.
Hey, how come that the starter sounds different later in the show than it does the first part of the show?
Yeah, well, because it keeps cranking. The starter's getting tired.
Well, but I think it has to do with the ring gear. The way it fit the ring gear. I mean, the first one you have is on an older vehicle, and this one here is on a newer vehicle.
Yeah, so, if you got a starter that's having a problem and it's grinding a little, make sure that when the starter gets replaced that they check what Matt's talking about, that ring gear, because that's the gear on the engine, on the flywheel, that the starter engages into, and it's got teeth on it.
Yeah.
And so if it's been grinding, then it may have ground that teeth down. Hey, let's talk to Jim in SLO. Hi, Jim.
Yes, hello.
How are you?
I am well, thanks.
What would you like to talk about?
Well, I have an 02 Ford Taurus, and my cruise control just quit. I have checked the fuses, and I don't see a faulty fuse anywhere.
Okay.
And see if you have any suggestions.
Okay, so number one, go out and locate the cruise control. There's a kind of a cylinder that it probably has a cable attached to it that ends up going to your throttle. Locate that and make sure that if that has any vacuum hoses going to it, that they're not broken and that the cable is still attached and all that. So just do that logical stuff. So that's number one. It's called the servo, the cruise control servo. It's a vacuum servo.
Okay.
Depending on what kind of cruise control you have. So if you can find that and just look at everything there, one of the more common things is a vacuum hose might break going to it or just get cracked. And then if that looks good, then you go down to your cable, your pedals, and look at the whatever is attached to your pedal switches. A lot of times, probably the second most common thing is called the brake light switch. So if you look at the vacuum hoses that go to the servo and look at the brake light switch, and if you want to try to fix this yourself, you could maybe take a guess and replace the brake light switch. It's not a very expensive thing to replace. And I would say statistically, you may have a decent chance of fixing it just by doing those two things. If those two things don't fix it, then it's probably time to go to a professional, because that is a complicated system. You've got a little computer, and you've got a servo, and you've got signals going from A to B. And so if you can't fix it with those two things, then either Absolute Auto, Continental Motor Works, we can fix that for you.
Okay. Now, the brake light switch is behind the brake. Is that correct? Brake pedal?
It's on the brake pedal, yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, I did have another question. I just had a complete brake job done. Could that be a coincidence that having the brake job might have somehow affected the cruise control?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably. Why, did it work before?
Yes, it did.
So go back to the place that did the brake job and just ask them to recheck everything.
Okay.
It can't hurt. I mean, something could have come undone. I don't know. Is that all they did?
Yes,
They didn't do any other stuff?
No. What I was getting is after the brake job, when I would apply the brakes, I would get a thumping noise on my brake pedal. And I didn't know if that had anything to do with the brake job, if it had anything to do with affecting the cruise control, or if it's just coincidence.
Don't be afraid to go. When you have work done, you pay good money to have the work done. I always want somebody to come back and tell me. I don't want them to go away mad or go away questioning. I want somebody to call me right away and say, hey, this is happening since you did it. And by all means, bring it back in and let's get to the bottom of it and let's fix it.
Okay.
So I when the work's done, at my shop, I want to get that straight.
Right.
And things happen, and so go back and just, you don't have to be mad. You just go back and be honest and say, hey, look, this is happening since it, and I just like you to recheck your work.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Very good.
And make sure they check that thumping stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
That should all be taken care of. That doesn't sound right.
No, that doesn't sound right. No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
Jim,
appreciate
thanks
your
for
advice.
calling. Hope that helps. Have a good one. Thank you. Let's see. Do we still have Susie on, or did we lose her?
No, she dropped off. So
All right. Well, we only have a few minutes left, so we'll kind of finish up here. So cruise control is something that, people kind of take for granted, but it can have problems. And, the things that I just mentioned are usually the things that are problematic with it. But I don't think people realize it is a complicated system that works off of, a switch on your dash, and then you have switches, you have sensors on your brake pedal, and then you have also sensors on your throttle. So there is quite a bit to that cruise control system. Kind of like an air conditioning system. People think it's just one thing. Yeah, right. And it's like there's a compressor and a condenser and an evaporator and an accumulator and all the things that go in between. And it is a complicated system that goes all through your engine and your car. How about Pauline in Morro Bay? Hi, Pauline.
Hi. I have a 2013 Dodge. And when I drive in the driveway and go out, into the garage and later go out, there's water running down. Is that condensation maybe?
Is it just clear water?
Yeah, just puddling, yeah.
And does
condensation.
Does it tend to be right underneath where the passenger's feet would be?
No, it's on my driver's side. Maybe it's...
Typically,
the driver's side can just run. It might be the,
yes,
planting. But
I think you're right. It usually is. If it's dripping from more where your feet would be, then it's condensation. If it's dripping from under the front of the car, like where the engine is, then it might be something else. But if it's clear water and it's more when you have the air conditioning or the defroster running.
Oh, I have had that fan running because it seems... Okay.
It's not a bad idea.
I thought it was.
Not a bad idea just to stop in to wherever shop you go to, have them pop open the hood and make sure all the fluids are full and have them look at it. It's very easy for us to tell that. And that, once again, talk about the most common things that people come in for. That's real common. People come in and they go, oh my gosh, water's dripping from my car. And it's a lot. It can actually be like a whole 2 cups full, which is a lot of water. And that's normal. Condensation.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think you're right, Pauline.
Listened to you for a long, long time. Okay.
Thank you for calling. We appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Well, from Pauline to Jim to Patricia to Dave, we thank our callers that called in today, and all of you out there listening. We appreciate you. We're the Motor Mouse, Matt and Jeff. Our show is sponsored by BG Products. You can look them up at bgfindashop.com using making such great products as 44K and synthetic transmission fluids and gear oils. Absolute Auto, located at the corner of Capitolio and Sacramento. Go see Jason and Charlotte for excellent local conscientious automotive repair and service, and also they have alignment machine that'll take care of your regular vehicles or your big vehicles. Continental Motor Works, we're at 1101 Laurel Lane. Call Jeff at 541-1464. And Bike Slow County. We invite you to look at the website and donate to Bike Slow County for a safer transportation future for our county. Okay, well, it looks like it's a little foggy out there, but I know it's going to end up being about 80 out there. You're not fooling me, weather. We know it. We know what's going on out there. So be safe out there. Remember, if you leave a little early, you drive the speed limit, use your turn signals, use your lights, and just enjoy the drive. And don't forget to write your Motor Mouth questions down for next week, because Matt and Jeff will be back next Saturday morning.